I'm going to share with you the top 3 mistakes that I made starting my own independent insurance agency, that if I had known in the beginning, I would not do these things. First of all, it's about the people. It's about attracting, recruiting, interviewing, and hiring the right people. You're only as good as your weakest link. I would have made sure that I connected with people who knew a lot more than I did about attracting, recruiting, interviewing, hiring excellent people instead of trying to figure it out by myself. What I learned, I can't change people. Who they are, what they got when they were gifted their DNA at conception, what they learned, their belief systems and everything else through the first 18 years of their life, that's who they are. I can't change that. I thought I could by caring for them, by training them, by nurturing them. It comes back to a story that I learned through those lessons. I was in Chicago at an event working on my own self through my own personal development. I received a call from the most seasoned person on our team while I was in Chicago. And that team member said, "Mike, this gal's crazy." I said, "What's going on?" She said, "This gal's running around the office. She just got her first paycheck. She's waving it in the air, telling everybody how much she makes." I said, "That's not the gal that we saw through the interviewing, the assessments, and the hiring. It was somebody completely different." Those lessons are so vitally important. I've also learned hire slower, fire fast. And at the end of that fire fast portion, so vitally important. I can't change them. If they don't do what needs to be done according to the agency standards, the protocol that is set forth in the agency, and the training that is delivered, you got to let them go. You got to fire fast. But that's why another vitally important mindset must be in place. You must always be recruiting. All of the time. You must always be recruiting, because if that person doesn't make it, then you've got to have somebody else to move in to the interviewing, ultimately hiring position so you can train them. And for that person, through the training, the onboarding, which, by the way, that's another one of the items that I would say you must have an onboarding system for your team members to make sure they're properly trained and onboarded into your culture. But through that training, if you identify anything in the first, we call it the first 89 days, they're not an excellent fit for your culture, for your organization, you got to cut. It's a business decision. It's another thing that I learned years ago. There's 2 kinds of relationships in business and in life: business relationships and personal relationships. This is simply business relationships. That big aha moment came into my world. I had hired a gal, nicest gal that you'd ever want to meet. She was recommended by one of my wife's best friends. It was her neighbor. So I hired her. She started making mistakes, kept making mistakes. I gave her a verbal warning. I gave her a written warning, kept making mistakes. I was driving to the office figuring, how am I going to do this? She's got to go, but I don't know what to say. About halfway to the office on the drive that morning, I had that aha moment. I said, you know what? It's nothing personal against her. I can always love her as a person, but this is business. And I've got the rest of the team that I have to take care of. And they're watching everything that I do and everything I don't do. So I decided on the way in that morning that I was going to explain to her. It was nothing personal. It was just a business decision. And that's what I did. And I let her go and we moved on. We found the right person for the seat and we continued to grow exponentially. The other thing is, early on, if you were breathing and you needed insurance and you had money, you were mine. I didn't know. I didn't know how to write the right client. I didn't know who was the wrong client. I just thought if they needed insurance, you insure them. But nobody had ever taught me how to identify an ideal client and how to write mostly those ideal clients. And bigger than that, when I learned how to disqualify people, OMG, it became super awesome. You mean I don't have to insure everybody? No, you only insure the people that you would want to do business with for 1, 3, 5, 10, a career. And that's what you want to surround yourself with. Imagine every time you pick up the phone or communicate with somebody you really enjoy that relationship, that's where you want to be. So I learned the art of disqualification. I built the whole system around the art of disqualification. And then I learned how to surround myself with the kind of clients that I wanted to work with. Then I learned about personal insurance versus commercial insurance versus benefits. And I learned to design and build an agency and an agency team serving people at that particular level. But another big one is this. When you get to those ideal client avatars and you get into commercial insurance, you want to get into being a niche expert. Many years ago, I became as an example, a certified work comp advisor. I went through the educational process, got the designation as a certified work comp advisor, and that became one of my niches. I used it as a lead-in. I've got stories of agents that I've worked with. They asked me to have a conversation about what they should do in the commercial insurance realm. I'm thinking of a guy that I met, and he asked me that question. I spent some time with him. When we got done that night, I wrote 4 letters on a bar napkin. Now, he was a restaurant guy. He grew up in the restaurant business. He worked in his family's restaurant, and he wanted to stay in that industry if he could. And as I continued to talk with him, because I'm a restaurant guy, I grew up in the restaurant business. I said, there's a type of insurance coverage right now that I don't think anybody's addressing. And the employees in the restaurant business, everybody needs to be protected because of the way they act. They're younger people. They're very free with touching each other and this kind of stuff. And I said to that agent, here's the thing. If you become an expert in this, you use it as a lead line in business, and then you earn the right to write the rest of the account. And on that bar napkin that night, I wrote EPLI. I said, you go become an expert on that, teach restaurant owners and the food industry people all about it, and then learn how to get the rest of the account. Not only did he do that, bigger than that, he sub-niched it into a different type of restaurant business, pizzerias. And then he created automated strategies to tackle their biggest problem, which was their delivery. But that one idea, being a commercial niche specialist, allowed him to dominate the industry. Not only did he dominate it, he dominated it nationally. He was on the board of directors for a very large national pizza brand. They took him to Hawaii to sit in their meetings as their niche expert. Niches to riches, we say.